Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rebecca Saunders Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's guest is the other side of the world, which is a first for the Rebecca Saunders Show, despite the fact that I am indeed English myself. I met the fabulous Nicola Wilkes on Necker Island. Welcome to the show, Nicola.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. And I cannot actually believe that I'm a first being in the UK. How is that possible?
You're not my first British guest. You're my first person in the UK on the podcast.
Wow. And I love the fact that we sat down here just in chatting before we started this. And it's the fact that obviously I've got coffee and you might have a different kind of drink.
Oh, yes.
I love the fact that, we get to do this as well in different time zones. Isn't it amazing that you meet in one place? Like you said, we met in Necker and here we are. It's 7 a.m. for me and it's evening for you. And
it's coming up to 4:30. Yeah, so we've balanced our time zones so that it's daylight for the filming for both of us.
But anyway, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for coming on. Now, I wanted to bring you on because you work in a field that I love, and that's the creative one. So tell me a little bit about what seriously stylish business is all about.
Oh, I'd love to tell you that. And thank you, because it's one of those that I love explaining because I'm so sure that this is how we need to view business. And I work with women in the creative and design industries, really looking to achieve their highest performance, so really excel and go all the way with everything that they know is a talent and it's a gift they've been born with, or maybe a creative skill that they've learned and really mastered and had a great career. But they get to this point where they wake up and they're like, especially in your 40s, for anyone that can relate to this, you wake up and you suddenly think, whoa, I have got so much more in me. And I think we fall into these creative careers, and I don't think we ever, or not ever, I think we very rarely reach our highest performance because we almost tell ourselves this story that I'm not that good at business. I'm creative and I'm not this business person. And it's nonsense, because actually humans are creative. We should therefore always be in creativity. And if we should always be in creativity, and those of us that have trodden the path of entrepreneurship for that long know it takes a whole lot of creativity to keep going.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it does. It takes creativity to keep going when things aren't so good. And it also takes creativity to keep the good things going. So it's funny when people say, who do you work with? And I say, well, I work with women in creative and design industries. But actually, do you know what? I love anyone that thinks about business and embraces the sheer creativity of our humanness and business.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for me, coming from a creative industry myself and just seeing, I guess not the downfalls of creativity versus business, but you sometimes come across creative businesses where you go, oh, I really wish you had a better business now. Like I really wish there was something there that you could go and make that business and grow it so much more, because it's entrepreneurs, you can see the potential in people. Where was it in your creative background and your creative career did you suddenly go, oh, I can take this further? Like, what was that trigger point for you, and how did you transition from what people would consider a traditional creative sort of space and field into one much more business focused and much bigger picture thinking?
Oh, I love that question. So I think looking back, I realized I've always had a very business focused brain. So when I was in school, I was very much the student that I was obsessed with art and design and textiles. And, I used to live in the art classroom, but I also used to walk past the business studies class and think, I just want to be in there as well. Like, what if I could bring the two together? And I remember a friend actually could take business studies. She went to a different school. And I used to sit and pore over her coursework because I was just like, I just want to run a business. So I always was entrepreneurial, started work very young. So my career, I think, was always self-employed based. It was just that I did at one point realize that the way in which I was running those creative businesses, I was consulting for other companies. And I realized that through my styling, through the journalism career that I had, through the design kind of expert knowledge that I had that I was sharing. One day I woke up and I realized, actually, I'm not just consulting. Well, I'm not just consulting, I'm coaching too. And I'm actually impacting the money that they're making from it. They're a creative business, but our talks together, our meetings together, and our plans together are actually impacting what they turn over by a lot of money. I remember one client saying to me, I think they were at something like 0.8 million when we started working together. And I remember just maybe 18 months later, them saying to me, we've hit 2 million because of this. And I remember thinking, whoa,
Whoa, yeah, that's huge.
what is this? And I actually got a coach myself. And through that process, very, very quickly, did I get the light bulb moment of, oh, this is how I finally combine the design, jobs, careers, businesses with this innate love of business. And that's how we ended up calling the business Seriously Stylish Business, because I got this realization that even some creative businesses haven't got their branding right, haven't got their messaging right, don't know who they're targeting, don't know how to create that business that attracts people from the outside in. And style, let's face it, is, for those of us that like those kind of businesses, is really important.
Completely. And it's one of those things, I think, when you're stuck in that creative space, when I say stuck, I mean, you're skilled in the creative field, right? The creative field that you're in, you almost get siloed into doing the stuff that you love and not necessarily the business side of things that is going to grow the business and attract those outside people, which is the downfall for a lot of creative spaces, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a bit like, the builder's house never gets done and things like that. And actually the accountability and the great support of a coach who also totally understands every negative mindset thing that is going on in that brain of yours and all of the downfalls that any creative suffers, and imposter syndrome and any of those things. That's why I said, look, it's serious. Business is serious, but it can be really stylish as well. And exactly this, that it's working with my clients to show them, what, you may have told yourself all your working life that you aren't good at business because they have a very masculine view of business. And when I show them, actually, if you harness your creativity, you can literally kick ass.
Yeah.
And it's all in you already. And it's just, I show them how to bring that out.
Just unleashing that and bringing them out. So in terms of that creative space, Nicola, who are you working with at the moment, and where have you seen those huge transformations, particularly over the last 2 years, where it's been a little bit crazy for everyone around the world? Where have those transformations gone when the creativity space was hit really, really hard?
So, you know what? I honestly think my clients have absolutely thrived. I'm not going to sit here and say there haven't been bumps in the road and there haven't been huge discussions. I'm not saying some of them haven't seen a downturn. And funny enough, I was coaching a client yesterday who's definitely in a growth space. And let's face it, growth is seriously mucky and it can be very uncomfortable. And at certain points in business, and it's my job to identify that and hold space for them to move through it. At certain points is when most people walk away. When you hit a growth space, when you've already had a huge level of success, which most of my clients have, when you hit that, it can really shake your confidence. And of course, the pandemic has created that for a lot of businesses. But as yesterday we were saying, you know what, there's going to be another version of something like a pandemic. There's definitely going to be another, if we talk about the R word, there's definitely going to be another recession. This won't be the first, it won't be the last. I was saying, when I started my business 6 months in, so it was the Saturday before Christmas, we flooded and I had a brand new shop and we had water gushing through the shop. We got back open in 1 day. And then a year to the day, we had a fire next to our warehouse. And for some reason, the wind blew in the opposite direction for 2 weeks and our stock got saved. A year to the day after that, we were burgled. And I was like, you know what? There's always going to be something. So if we learn to ride the storm, we're good. We can last. But I would say the creative businesses I've worked with I'd say they've all grown. They've really all grown because they knuckled down and worked with me, and we really defined who they are, what they're doing. We worked so much on what makes you different, what makes you stand out. And by doing the deep work and the consistent work, that's the other thing, is
Consistency.
consistency. And for sure, were there a couple of clients that just went into panic mode at the beginning of COVID and just backed off?
Yeah.
Yeah, and guess where they are? Nowhere near, if anywhere, still in existence, where the clients that
Wow.
stuck with me are. And that is all I need to know. The
Mm.
clients that I've got that stuck with me, which were most of them, are so thriving.
Yeah,
And
that's incredible.
it's been a great space for them. It's been a great time for them.
It's an incredible space to be in, and just to hear all the good news stories that have just come through there, like all the feels coming through of the success in creative spaces. And it is down to that mindset of the women behind those businesses that choose to invest in themselves. And you and I chose that path when we booked our seat on the flight on the way to Necker.
Yeah.
Where did that trip come from for you? Why did you choose to invest in yourself to that level at this time in your business?
Such a great question. I think this was, I don't know whether I told you this story, but this was an intention I set 14, 15 years ago, before I even knew coaching was a thing. And I remember one night late, we'd moved house and I was sat trawling the internet. I ran a different business and I came across a webinar. Excuse me. I came across a webinar and it was this lady that had been to Necker on a gathering. And I remember thinking, what is this? What is this whole industry? What is this thing? And what is like Necker? And then a few years later, I watched the documentary and I saw Sir Richard Branson having a conversation with somebody, now I know, on Turtle Beach, having a conversation about business. And I remember thinking that I want to be there. So it was definitely something I must have anchored in here a long time ago. But for me, and I'm guessing like you, it was that opportunity that fell in my lap, obviously by divine kind of purpose.
Yes.
And I just thought, what better opportunity for my own growth to step into the unknown. And let's face it, to get the flights, to get the funds to get there, in terms of being part of that space, all of it is a level up before you even step on that island. And
Completely.
I was just available for that growth. There is no limit to the growth that I am willing to receive for myself, but also because I know it comes through me to my clients. I was like, how can I not do this for me and all of my clients that I've got that are going to come to me? How can I not be open to that magic?
I love that, because it's, for me, it's the ripple effect, right? It's the things that we do that can impact others that then ripples on so much further. And to be around a space that is, so for me, I found it very grounding, very sort of grounding in thought and clarity when we were there in the big conversations. And you're correct in that we went there and pushed ourselves to the next limit, and we're never going to stop learning and growing and giving that to our clients. For people listening to this conversation who are like, oh, I like the sound of it, but really, like, I don't know what's involved. What do I need to do to make sure that I am in that right space to receive that coaching or that learning or that next phase? What would be the things that you would tell female business owners in that space to think about in terms of looking for a coach or thinking about their next phase of growth?
I always say it's like finding the best yoga teacher. We all know what it's like, or for those that have never been to yoga, just go.
You're talking
But
to someone that's not a yoga person, so
oh,
I'll
amazing.
pretend that I know.
Okay, amazing. So this may make sense to you and it may not. So
Okay.
you can go to a yoga teacher and a yoga teacher and a yoga teacher, and they'll be all right. They'll be good. They might somehow manage to get you into pigeon pose, and you might walk away and think that was mediocre, but I don't feel called to go back. And I think when you find the right yoga teacher, you will literally follow them to the ends of the earth, because it's happened to me twice.
Right.
And I think when you find the right coach, I always say to somebody after the first conversation, look, go away and pay attention to, do you internally somehow shift after our conversation? Just our initial chat has something like a switch flipped, that you suddenly go away and do something differently, or you suddenly go away and think differently? Have I spurred you into taking action today, even if it's small? Because sometimes our change is created from like the 1% that we do. If you go away and feel any of those things after our chat and things start to permeate and you feel that internal shift, I may well be the right coach for you.
Mm.
And I sum it up like that because what I know is I'm not the right coach for everyone. But I would say, so when somebody's looking for, is this the right retreat to go on? Like with NECA, is this the right experience for me? How do I find the right coach? Pay attention to what your internal voice is saying and how you feel, say, when you think about that thing. And like us, I mean, how did you feel? I'm going to ask, can I ask you a question? How did you feel when you signed up to NECA? What was it about that? Or how do you find your coaches? What is it that you would say?
Yeah, no, I would definitely say for me, it's all about the feels. And when it feels right energetically, I go with it. For me personally, I tend to, I don't look in the detail, Nikki, at all. Like it's a big picture. If it feels right, I'm going for it. So, for NECA, it was, oh, I've got the opportunity to do that. It feels right. Let's go. Or for the mentors that I work with, and I work with a number of coaches and mentors, and they work in different areas for me. And I know that some people listening will go, you have more than one? Like, but why? Because they're in different phases for me in terms of life, business, and the different spaces of business, and they don't actually cross over. And for me, looking forward to those conversations and walking away feeling way more energized is a really big telltale thing for me. I also really love the accountability piece of someone saying to me, did you do it yet? Have you got there yet? Have you cracked that bottle of champagne open yet? I love that piece. Yeah.
And I saw your post about your champagne, and I know what you do. I know we've had this chat because we spent a night in the same hotel on the return trip from NECA in Puerto Rico. And I know we were sat at the pool bar talking about, this whole concept of celebrating. And I loved your champagne celebrations where you pull a bottle of champagne out of the fridge and you will literally celebrate the moment you achieve a goal.
Yes.
And I was on one of my own coaching calls this week and someone said something and I looked at her, she said, I know what you're going to tell me to do. And I was like, you tell me, what am I going to tell you to do? She said, you're going to send me off to the supermarket to buy a bottle of champagne.
Nice.
Right. Off you go.
Yes.
Because you aren't letting this moment pass without celebrating it. And it's that level of accountability actually is really important when it comes to coaching. Making your client go and celebrate. And
it's very easy to miss those milestones, right? To literally go, oh, I've got there. What's the next one? So I love that you've sent them off for champagne. I think that's great.
Because isn't it easy for the coach to just say, here's a worksheet, go do it, or here's a list of things, go do it. But, the coach should also be saying, I literally want to see you sit. I want you to send me a picture of that champagne open and you drinking it, or whatever it is your thing. And like you, I've got several coaches, and there will always, in my mind, there'll be several coaches that will give me different things that I need at different times. And they run alongside each other.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I was talking to my mentor yesterday, and she sent me a message in the evening and said, I've got a Post-it note on the champagne in my fridge. And so this story that I've got of my Post-it notes on champagne bottles in the fridge is just rippling on. And I think it's absolutely fantastic that, those small milestones and sometimes big milestones, hers wasn't very small, hers was pretty big, are being recognized in a way that is always at the forefront of thought processes every morning. So for those of you that haven't heard me talk about it before, my fridge is there's a line of champagne bottles at the beginning of the year. I put Post-it notes on the end of the boxes, and I see it every time I open the fridge. And so it's one of those things that just constantly is the forefront of my mind. And I love that it's being shared, which I think is fantastic.
Oh, I shared it with my group this week because they know my champagne thing. And I was like, right, if you want to ramp this up, this is brilliant. Yep. So I'm sharing it for you too. I'm absolutely doing that because I actually have a row of champagne, but I'm just going to stick the Post-it notes on it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of satisfaction in that photo. Definitely from that growth perspective. So now we've done NECA, Nick. What's next for you? Where's your next growth path going for you personally? Like, what's that journey that you see in the future?
Honestly, the way I sum it up is so much more connection. And I don't know about you, but since I've got back from NECA, my brain is whirring, and you come back in and you are at a point where you re-enter your life as it was pre-NECA, and you realize it's just not even possible to see things through the same lens, hopefully ever again, because why would you want to, when you've got an
Go
elevator
backwards.
view, why would you want to go backwards?
Yeah.
And for us as a business, and me personally as a coach, definitely what's ahead of us is just even more intentional connection with our clients. And I was just in London for the last 2 days, and I was talking to the events team at the members club. I'm like, how can I hire your spaces in this way? So not what's the rules. This is how I desire to bring people together way more often, so that they can have access to this level up that I know I am so grateful for and so blessed to be able to access. But how do I give them more? So we're ramping up our in-person connection massively. So that's how we're building things out. We're already good at that. It's where I love to be, is in person, but we are going to just be all over that space. We've got our first ever Mallorcan retreat coming up in October, and we already know from the people that are just so itching to be there, and maybe this year is not right for them, but absolutely next year would be. We are definitely going to increase our retreat program, because we know that's, especially from NECA, that is where, when you get on that plane, the transformation starts. Well, let's face it, it starts the minute you click yes, but the minute you get on that plane and you take yourself to a different space, that is so inspiring, that really honors and gives you that container to transition into the next version of yourself, to transform, to restore and replenish. I would say that's what NECA did. And I know you love that space of a retreat. I counted, not including UK retreats, because I was thinking, okay, so what qualifies me to put on a damn good retreat? Why is it I'm so sure I can do this? I can create amazing in-person events. And I counted 13 across the world, and obviously increasing and increasing and increasing just in a few years. So I thought that's the power that I believe this creates. So that's definitely going to become more of the premise of our business going forward. We absolutely do online courses and online coaching, but I'm a great believer in the connection that women create together in person, and I want to cultivate more of that. NECA has definitely given me that.
Yeah, completely. And I love it. I'm like trying to work out ways that I can get to Mallorca to do all of the things and see you in person. I'm so excited, because after 2 years of having virtual connections with so many people, we are missing that connection, that those deep conversations, those connections that just happen when you're walking along the beach, making a cup of coffee. That's just, it's so unscripted and what's the word?
It's unplanned.
Unscheduled, it's that kind of aha light up moments, which is definitely what's going to skyrocket businesses forward if they really nail that piece.
Oh, totally. Do you know what? Funny enough, the email, because we're closing booking out today, and I actually sent an email out first thing this morning, and I said it was entitled, "The Transformation Doesn't Begin When You Think It Will." And I was saying it begins the minute you say yes. So I think I'm going to speak for myself, but I am pretty sure you will agree with me that the minute I said yes to the NECA experience, and for every other retreat I've ever done, every other trip I've ever made in a business sense, the transformation linked to that particular trip always starts the moment I sit at my desk and think, oh my goodness, what have I just done? What have I just what have I said yes to?
What have I done? Now I've got to book flights, and now the flights are real, and
all of it. And so the transformation actually starts there. And let's face it, with NECA, because it was delayed for so long, like nearly 2.5 years, it was a long period of transformation pre-trip. But I also say, you know what, these conversations are going to happen when maybe you're room sharing, you just sit and have a coffee outside on your balcony first thing. Or it could be just when you happen to be in the jacuzzi down at the spa. Maybe somebody says, does anyone fancy jacuzzi pre-dinner? And you go down to the spa. Or it could be at the breakfast buffet table. It could be in so many places that we presume in a very male-dominated space. It happens at the bar, or it happens at the dinner table, the conference table, or maybe on the golf course. very particular places that men do business. I think the beauty of, say, the space like Necker, or like, you know, a retreat that I'm
Any
creating.
retreat. Yeah.
You create the connections in the places you don't expect. It could be, you know what, should we just meet at the airport? We've never met each other, but should we meet at the airport, and should we share, four of us share a taxi? That's happened to me
That's the
too.
fun part. That's happened to me a few times too. Yeah.
Amazing
Yeah.
connection can be made there.
Hugely. They're some of my best friends. That has happened, you know, where you've just met them completely out of the blue, which I think is incredible. So on that note, I know that I'm going to see you in person in the next few months. I've no doubt. You're closing out Mallorca, so people can't come and join that one if they're listening to this podcast or watching the video later.
Well, unless you have cancellations or anything.
We're not doing cancellations.
No,
Maybe put your names down for 2023.
The hotel might have more rooms for us. So yeah, if anyone is listening to this, it's always worth dropping us a line, but definitely there'll be more next year.
So where can people find you, Nicola? Where can they find you? Where can they get more of you? Tell me.
Oh, Instagram's my happy place. I'm just going to own it. Follow me over on Seriously Stylish Business, because I adore Instagram. I just, you know, I've got to this point where I'm just going to call it out. I actually love being there and communicating in that way, because I love the fact I can hop on and do a video whenever I feel like it. So that's the first place. I've also got a podcast, which I know we're going to chat on, called The Empowered Businesswoman. Definitely come and listen to that, because I'm on a mission to normalize success for women. And then we have two websites. We have our kind of Learn With Me. If you want to explore coaching, go and hit seriouslystylishbusiness.co.uk. And we've just launched a brand new online magazine, which I want to create. It's very much in its infancy, but I want to create this inspiration fest of everything from great business advice to, let's face it, fashion advice, makeup advice. Like, how do you keep your makeup looking great when you're running a business, running around doing everything? How do you keep that looking great all day long? What are the best 5 dresses to wear when you're giving a talk with pockets? Like this one has pockets that I've got now. And it's like, what do you do with your hands? And everyone wants a dress with pockets. Or what are the best lipsticks, top 5 red lipsticks to wear when you're presenting? All of these things mixed in with so much business. And that's nicolawilkes.com.
I love that. And we are going to put all of those links in the show notes. Nicola, thank you so much for joining me on the Rebecca Saunders Show. I have loved every minute.
Thank you.